Alright, so what we're going to do today, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time reviewing what we've talked about before. You can watch those lectures again. But if you do have any questions about edge flow or overlapping faces or anything, come talk to me or email me and we'll look at it and we'll kind of discuss it a little bit further. Um, but today what we're going to talk about is combining objects and merging the verts. So most of the time in Maya, when you're modeling something, you can't model the object from a single primitive, or it's just not as efficient or as easy. So what you want to do is you want to end up having more than one object, and you're going to combine them together and then merge the verts so that they act and react as they are a single object and that they're all connected. I think I noticed in some of the other videos you guys haven't been able to see my mouse as well. So I'm going to try to remember to highlight it or hit this button so that you can at least see where I'm trying to talk about. So right now what I want to do is I'm just going to select both of these objects, and I do that by holding down Shift on the keyboard, or I can just kind of start here and drag a box and select both of them. But what I want to do is I'm going to select them both, and then I want to come up to Mesh and Combine. And all this does is it creates both boxes and it treats them as if they're one object. So now if I rotate them, they rotate as one object, or if I scale them, they scale as one object. Maya now just treats these two things as if they are the exact same object. And that's really useful because now we've combined them, and instead of having to move them independently, we can start to create something that uses both of the shapes. So what I'm going to do is just pretend that both of these are a really square dumbbell for now. And I'm going to come and I'm going to select this face, and I'm going to extrude it and scale it down. I'm going to do the same thing with this face. I'm going to extrude it and scale it down. Right? And then I'm going to extrude this face again. And I'm going to extrude it all the way over to here. So now what you can see is I've got two objects that are connected, more or less, but right here you can tell they're not actually connected. So what I want to do is I want to delete this face, and I also want to delete the face on the inside of the dumbbell right here, which this might be confusing, but I'm inside the box and I'm looking at the dumbbell, and I want to delete that. So now I have two faces that are no longer there, and I've created two holes. And now I have the opportunity to come in and hit F9 on my keyboard for vertex selection. And I'm going to select one vert on my original cube and one vert on my dumbbell. And what I want to do is come up to Edit Mesh and Merge. And I'm going to do that for all four corners. Edit Mesh and Merge. Edit Mesh and Merge. And then one more time, Edit Mesh and Merge. So now Maya is treating these two objects as if they are the exact same object, which is really useful when it comes to creating objects for a game, because now I can get a lot more detail without having to just extrude off of a single object. The dumbbell is not a great example because that's something you could do from a single object, but just combining the two boxes is really what we want to look at. And if we were making a dumbbell, you know, we could come in and kind of start to insert edge loops. And I'm just going to scale these up. And I'm going to insert a single edge loop. Now just a little bit of work, we've kind of rounded things out. I just don't really like to leave things completely unfinished. And we have little kind of dumbbells. Just gonna scale it out a little bit more. Like I said, I just don't like to leave things unfinished. So now we've got our little kind of poor looking dumbbell, but it's there. These are like the really little weights you might work out with, I guess. Anyway, the purpose here is to talk about combining objects. So again, you have one cube, you'll have a second cube, and if you want to combine them together, the first thing you need to make sure you do is you delete the two faces that you're combining, because you don't want a face inside of your object, because that's going to create a lot of problems. So you want to delete this face and this face, because we're going to combine those. And now what you want to do is select both objects holding the shift key, and then you want to mesh and combine. Once the objects are combined, then you can come in and select vertex, and you can start to select the two vertices and edit mesh and merge vertex. Now what makes this process a lot faster is another hotkey in Maya. So I can select these two vertices, and if I hit the G key in Maya, G as in group or Gary or Gertrude or grape, the G key, if I hit the G key, it's going to repeat my last command. So my last command was edit mesh and merge. So if I come in and I select the two vertices that I want and I hit the G key, then it's going to merge again. It's just repeating the last step that I did. So you'll notice now that I have a long box because I have combined the two boxes and then merged their verts. And that's a really simple concept, and it's really useful. And what I want to do with it is, for the project, I'm going to create a treasure chest. It's going to be a really simple treasure chest. I'm going to try to go through it step by step, just using the extrude tool, the insert edge loop tool. We'll combine two objects and we'll merge some verts together. Using all of those steps, we'll create a treasure chest. And for the project, what I want you to do is create the treasure chest that I create, and I also want you to create another object. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So what I want to do first, and this is the treasure chest that I want you to create with me, is I'm going to create a box, and I'm going to scale it out just a little bit. And then I'm going to scale the bottom in just a bit, so it takes on kind of a chest look. Right, I'm going to delete this top face. So we have something that looks kind of like a trough. The next thing I want to do is I want to come to create, polygon primitives, and cylinder. But I want to click on the options tab here. And I want to change my axis divisions to 8. And then I can hit apply. Now what I want to do is rotate this 90 degrees, and I'm going to try to get it placed on top of my treasure chest here. I'm going to scale it out because it's a little bit short. And the next thing I want to do is I want to delete the entire half of this cylinder. So I'm just going to come here, hit F11, and just drag over the entire bottom half here and delete it. So now you see what I've got is I've got a trough here on the bottom, and I've got half a cylinder up here on the top, and I just want to scale it until it kind of fits on top of my treasure chest. So I get something that looks kind of like this, which is a very rudimentary looking treasure chest, but we're going to add a little bit more detail to it. But the first thing we need to do is we have this box and we have this cylinder. We need to combine these objects together. So like I said before, we need to make sure that we've deleted the interior faces, which we've done, but we also need to know that we have an edge on both objects to line up with the other edge. You'll notice here on the cylinder, I have an edge coming down here in the middle, but I don't have an edge coming down here on the box. So the first thing I need to do is insert an edge loop on the box. I'm going to insert one edge loop using an equal modifier for multiple edge loops, and just insert it there on the box. So now you'll see what I have is a box with an edge loop here in the middle and the lid with an edge loop here in the middle. And now I can mesh and combine these two objects. And just like we did with the cubes, I'm going to hit F9 or select vertex. And I'm going to draw a box over these two vertices here. I'm going to make sure that I've selected both of those and only those two. And once I've done that, I can edit mesh and merge. I'm going to do the same thing for every group of verts around the object. And just like I said, if after you've done edit mesh merge, you can hit the G key on your keyboard to repeat the last command. Alright, once I have all of those connected, I ended up with something that looks pretty much like a treasure chest, but we want to add a little bit more detail. And we know how to do that because we have used the extrude tool and we've used the insert edge loop tool before. So what I want to do is I want to come in and edit mesh, insert edge loop tool options. I want to insert a number of edge loops too, using multiple edge loops. And after I do that, I'm going to want to select these two edge loops, which in order to select edge loops, it's really easy. You could come in and select every edge independently, all the way around the object. But the easiest way to select the edge loop is to come in, hold down Shift, and double click on a single edge. And what that'll do is it will select the entire edge loop. So again, hover your mouse over the edge loop until it turns red, hold down Shift, and then double click on the edge loop. You can do the same thing on the other edge, hover over it until the edge becomes red, and double click on it, and you will select the entire edge loop. I want to scale these, and I want to scale them out to the side like this. The next thing I want to do is I want to insert an edge loop around the top. So edit mesh, insert edge loop options. I want to use a single edge loop, but I also want to make sure it's relative distance from edge. So now I can come in and I can change the height of my edge loop, and I want to put it near the top, and I want to put a second edge loop near the bottom. So now what I'm starting to get is kind of an outline to my crate or my treasure chest here. I want to do the same thing on this side. I want to insert an edge loop here, and I want to insert an edge loop here. And lastly, I want to go back to multiple edge loops and two, and I just want to insert two more edge loops here in the middle, and I want to scale them together. So what we end up with is a treasure chest with a lot of edge loops running around it, and it looks pretty much the same as it did before, except now we have some things we can modify. So what I want to do is select and face, or F11, and I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to select all of the faces that are kind of not on those rings of edge loops that I just made. So pretty much all of these faces here. And once I have them all selected, I'm going to edit mesh and extrude, and making sure I use the blue arrow, I'm just going to pull these faces in. And what that's done really quickly is given me kind of an outline of the treasure chest with an inset of faces or wood panels. So we end up with something that looks really treasure chest-ish. And then I'm going to come in, I'm going to grab this one face here in the middle. I'm going to edit mesh, extrude. I'm going to pull that face off. And I'm going to grab the under face. And I'm going to edit mesh, extrude, and I'm going to pull that straight down. So now we have a treasure chest with a lock on it. Just pretty simple. Like I said, we just created the two primitive shapes, which was the original cube. And the cylinder that we created with 8 axis divisions, and we rotated it 90 degrees, placed it on top of the cylinder, scaled it to fit, and then delete the bottom half. After we did that, we were able to combine and merge those objects. And then treating them like one object, we were able to come in and create the treasure chest. I feel like that's a lot of little steps, but none of it's too difficult. Mostly it's just inserting edge loops, extruding, and making sure that you've combined the objects and merged the vertices first. So with that knowledge, you should be able to come in and create any object that is like the treasure chest, where you have to combine more than one object. For example, I have this park bench here where I had a lot of 2x4s that I had to combine here on the edge. I have this ladder. Again, a lot of 2x4s that I had to extrude off and then combine. And the same thing with this fence here on the barn. I had a lot of just simple 2x4s that I had to extrude and combine to get the shape that I wanted. There's a lot of other objects you can make with this. You can make a bed frame or a table or chairs, or you could model a dumpster or some version of trash can. There's a ton of different objects that you can make, but what I want you to do is just choose an object, preferably something simple like a fence or a ladder or a bench or maybe a dumpster of sorts, something simple, and create the objects, the primitives, and combine them together and then modify them to get the final object that you want. If you have any questions or you run into trouble trying to come up with an object, you can let me know. Otherwise, there will be a submission on Moodle. It'll be due next Monday, and there will also be a reflection due for this project. So if you do have any questions, let me know. acarricker7615@stanley.edu, and hopefully everything goes well for you. Thanks.